5th grade. We're ready for math lesson 161. To start off in today's lesson, I have the area for a square on the board, and I have the length of a rectangle and the area of a rectangle. So we're just doing something a little different, just as a little exercise to get us thinking. First of all, if we have a square and we know the area is 25 square feet, what would the length of one side of the square be? If the area is 25 square feet, what would the length of one side be? Any guesses? You should have guessed 5 square feet because remember, to find the area of a square, we go side times side. And in order to get 25 square feet, if we multiply a number by itself, it would have to be 5, right? Because 5 times 5 equals 25. Now, for our rectangle, we have the area, which is 40 square feet, and we have the length, which is 10 feet. Now, can you tell me what the width of a rectangle would be? What would the width of a rectangle be? The width of a rectangle, your guess should have been 4 feet, because when we find the area of a rectangle, we go length times width, right? We know the length, but we don't know the width, except that we know our answer to length times width has to be 40. So 10 times what number equals 40? And that should give us our width, which would be 4. So the length is 10 feet and the width would be 4 feet. Let's go over some concept cards this morning. First of all, I have a few decimals here, and I would like you to round them to the tenths or hundredths place. Now remember, in order to round a decimal to the tenths place, we have to have at least 2 places, because the hundredths place tells us whether or not we round up or keep our number the same. So if we round this number, it would be 2/10. Round this to the tenths place, we'd be left with nothing because you just keep it a 0 and get rid of the 1, which was just 0/10, which is nothing. Round this number to the hundredths place. Now to round to the hundredths place, the thousandths place is our determining digit, so you have to have a thousandths place to round to the hundredths place. So this number would be 3 hundredths if we round it to the hundredths place. Round this number to the hundredths place, and we look at the thousandths place as our determining digit, and our rounded answer would be 14 hundredths. Now let's go over our fractions and the decimal that they stand for. So give yourself time to learn these well, but let's just see how well we can do today. What is the decimal for 5/6? 83 hundredths, and the 3 is repeating. 1/6. 16 hundredths, and the 6 is repeating. 2/3. 6/10, and the 6 is repeating. 1/3. 3/10 repeating. 7/8. 875,000. Now again, if you don't know all of these or a lot of these, just give yourself time, try to watch, follow along, and learn them more and more as we go. What is the decimal for this fraction? 6 and 25,000. For 3/8, 375,000. For 1/8, 125,000. What about for 4/5? 8/10. 3/5? 6/10. 2/5. 4/10. 1/5. 2/10. 3/4. 7/500. 1/4. 2/500, and 1/2. 5/10. Now let's quickly go through these. I'm going to go through them fairly quickly. Just answer as soon as you can. Equilateral triangle. Point. Angle. Isosceles triangle. Right triangle. Straight angle. Obtuse angle. Acute angle. Right angle. Congruent angles. Diagonal. Vertex. Octagon. Heptagon. Hexagon. Pentagon. Trapezoid. Rhombus. Square. Ray. Line segment. Parallelogram. Polygon. Congruent triangles. Similar triangles. Simple closed curve. Parallel lines. Perpendicular lines. Rectangle. Line. Intersecting lines. 43,560. 640. 9. 144. 16. 8. 3. 2. 4. 2. 10. 100. 1,000. 1,000. 100. 10. 1,760. 5,280. 2,000. 16. 4. 8. 1/10. 100th. 1,000th. 1,000. 100. 10. 12. 3. 60. 60. 24. 7. 365. 12. 100. And 1,000. Very good. That was a lot of flashcards. In our lesson today, we are learning about dividing by 10, 100, and 1,000. Now, first of all, let's go over the rules for multiplying by 10. So if we have a number like this, and we want to multiply by 10, we are simply going to move our decimal point, our invisible decimal point here, one place to the right. So it would be 52,720. If we would multiply by 100, we move it 2 places. So then our answer would be 527,200. And multiply by 1,000, we would move our decimal point 3 places. Now, what about something like right here? We have a decimal, and if we multiply this by 10, we're just again going to move our decimal point 1 place to the right. So it would be 5 and 31/100ths. If we multiply by 100, we would move it 2 places to the right, so it would be 53 and 1/10. Multiply by 1,000, move it 3 places to the right, and it would be 531. Okay, now what do we do if we divide by a power of 10? So I have the number 20 on the board. Now, what do we get if we divide 20 by 10? Of course we get 2, right? Now, notice that if we would get 2, this would be our answer, right? 2.0 or 2 is the same thing. So we just moved our decimal point one place to the left when we divided by 10. Now, since division is the opposite of multiplication, we're just moving our decimal point the other way. So instead of moving our decimal point to the right when we multiply, we're just moving our decimal point to the left when we divide. Now, if we would multiply the 2 by 100, or divide the 2 by 100, my bad, then we would move our decimal point from here, our invisible decimal point, 1, 2. So we would have 2/10, okay? Now let's try it for the 19. Let's say we want to divide by 10. We're simply going to think about our invisible decimal point that's right here, and we're going to move it one place to the left, and that gives us 1 9/10. Now if we would divide by 100, we would move our invisible decimal point 2 places to the left, and that would give us 19/100. Okay? Now what if we would divide this by 1,000? We'd have to move our decimal point 1, 2, 3 places to the left. Okay? Now notice what happens here. Sometimes, just like what happens when we multiply by 10, sometimes we need to annex zeros. When we divide by powers of 10, we also need to do the same thing sometimes. So if you need to move your decimal point over 3 places and you only have 2, annex a 0 and put your decimal point there. So to divide a decimal or a whole number by 10, 100, or 1,000, move the decimal point to the left as many places as you need to, because there is an understood decimal point at the end of your whole number. If you just have a whole number like this, there's an understood decimal point here, and you just move it to the left when you divide. And annex zeros if you need to, just like we do when we multiply by powers of 10. Work your lesson carefully. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in language class.